There had been struggles for decades, perhaps even for centuries, to emphasize the dignity of black people in particular and minorities in general. And they had generally hit stone walls. But there came a time when a disciple of Gandhi, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who believed in peace and nonviolence, came on the scene. He was a young pastor in Alabama, and he ended up becoming the leader of what we now call the civil rights movement. It differed from most of the other revolutionary movements in that this one, like Gandhi, depended on nonviolence and the principles of peace. And so he introduced that into our nation. Martin Luther King was 6 months younger than I am, so he would have been 82 years old right now, and I'm 82 years old right now. He was a person who was not just interested in rights for black people. He was interested in rights for everybody. In our experience, he was a friend to Audrey and me. He would come to our home, and she would even cook for him. But one of the things that we learned from him was that it was possible to make social change without violence. So when you hear of the desegregation of the Houston Independent School District or of the city of Houston, this is one of the few places where desegregation occurred without police and dogs and fighting in the streets. It was a very quiet desegregation here because we tried to follow, as he taught us, those principles which he had learned from Mahatma Gandhi. You have with you some boys from a middle school, an all-boys middle school. My wife created that middle school, and so I'd like for her to answer that question.
Oh my. Well, I did that because I was concerned that our boys were not becoming young men. They were too busy trying to be like all the other big guys that sort of wander the streets. And so I established a boys' school that would allow them to learn to be young men. They need to understand that the role that they should be responsible for is to be young men who begin the process of rebuilding their town. Now, there's one little difference that I have. I think that women are also a major part of the whole growth of our young people. But I think that if we can always convince people that there is help out there, and the help is from those people who have already lived through the period that our children are in right now, and that they need to grow as good young men and young women, and they can look at you and I, at him and myself, to see what is the role that you will play as you become an adult.
And these young men are living in a neighborhood, in an environment of so much violence, where it is expected that a boy, shortly after he comes out of elementary school, will move toward dropping out, and that may happen before he gets a high school diploma. And he moves toward gangs, he moves toward violence in the neighborhood, he moves toward incarceration. And this is part of what we're trying to keep boys from going into. You will remember that I said that Dr. King had been inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. He was just a young man who had grown up in Georgia. He had gone to a school there, and he had the usual experience of an American boy. One difference is that he was the son of a pastor, so those kinds of principles had come to him. But at some point in his life, he went to India and he met Mahatma Gandhi and was very much inspired by him. Many of his principles of nonviolence and peace came from that contact, and you can see what this one man did, bringing that back to the nation. These 5 boys will bring something back that will help their school, their neighborhood, their city, and ultimately the world.
Oh, I see it all the time. I go to the school. I'm no longer its director because I got too old.
No, she didn't get too old.
She got lazy and old. But we passed it on to one of our daughters. But I still go, the boys still, yesterday we were at a grocery store, and I had 3 different boys who are graduates and who have either, these were in college now, but they come back to the school to tell the other little boys that, look, you can make it, you can do it. And that is important to us, that we see them become young men. And they know now that they have a job to do as they help those that are in school to become better young men.
She is virtually the mama of the school. And when she comes over, they don't think of her as a founder or as an administrator. They just think of her as a kind of mother. And she brings those principles that we have learned in those civil rights days, and largely from Dr. Martin Luther King. Those are the kind of principles that we bring to the boys, and that's what she still inspires when she comes to the school. In a world of war and competition, there does need to be something like this event to speak to all the rest of us, because I think that if it's possible for us to learn from the current leader, as well as from people like Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi, if we can learn something about world peace, this conference at least brings together a diverse multiplicity of people and cultures, and this is as the world should be. That is just a microcosm of what could happen in the billions of people who make up this world.
We have to be aware of what is going on in our communities, and we need to try our best to convince people that they have a job to do, that they need to help with the growing up of the young people, young boys and girls who are currently beginning to act like fools as they grow a little bit older. And what we have found is it has worked. 85% of the boys that have gone to our school in the last, 6 or 7 years have gone on to college. We bump into them, across the city or across the country because so many of them have gone on to college. They have taken jobs and so forth outside of Texas and have become young men who are doing something for the nation. So I think that it is easy if there is somebody around who says, boy, I stop often and stop the car, and Bill tells me I'm going to get killed one day, and tell these boys walking around with pants hanging down below their you-know-what, and tell them to pull their pants up, what do you think any girl's going to want you walking around in pants looking like that?
When she tells them to do that, they always do.
Yeah.
They better.
So basically, I think that every adult has a job to do to help children that look like they have not been helped in terms of growing up and being young men. We need to all help them.
My message is pretty well the purpose of this conference. It is that people shall experience the contact with each other where one shall inspire another to focus on peace and nonviolence. And I think that the disciplines that lead to an attitude of peace and nonviolence are very important. Therefore, I think that this conference is very important. If you can plant seeds among this group, which for all of its number is still a small group, 100,000 people, it is really not a large group, but if you can plant seeds in that group and then send them back to radiate those principles just to the areas where they live, ultimately you can change the world. It is very important for us to at least separate ourselves from the traffic of the world for times. And she and I will sit down at the breakfast table and we will read a meditation, or we'll discuss a meditation, and we do pray on a regular basis. When we leave here, we've got a family which has just lost husband and father, and so a mother and wife, and we'll be going by that house, and it's expected that we will not simply visit, but that we will form a circle of prayer. So this is a part of our regular discipline.